Greetings, this is part 8 of the video series on how the ideal The Elder Scrolls 6 must look like for the game to be good. There are already 7 more videos like this one, so feel free to watch them. The links to the videos are in the comment section. So, today we will start with stealth skills. First of all, it should be noted that the Elder Scrolls games were not designed to play as a thief, even though there is a Thieves Guild. Remember how on your way from Helgen to Riverwood, at the beginning of Skyrim, you are presented with 3 stones to choose a sign. There is a Warrior Stone, a Mage Stone, and a Thief Stone. So Bethesda tried to say, there are 3 ways to play the game, but again, the stealth skills in Skyrim are very bad designed. And although Skyrim tried to present that there are 3 ways to play the game, it is actually not true. To begin with, there are no equal amount of skills for each type of playthrough, because they shoved the light armor in the Div section, even though it obviously belonged to a warrior section. Also, they shoved alchemy in the Div section, which obviously belongs to the mage section. And also they added the speech skill tree that is neutral to the Div section, even though thievery has nothing to do with speech. So, it turns out that there are only 3 real Div skill trees in Skyrim. It shows that there are no 3 ways to play the game, but only 2. Mage and a warrior. Now the actual Div skills are lockpicking, pickpocketing and stealth. I think lockpicking is okay, but pickpocketing and stealth are the problem. Now let's see how we can change them so they would actually be useful. Number 31 on the list is reworking of the pickpocketing concept. There are 2 problems with this mechanic. 1. There was no point in stealing anything in Skyrim in the first place, because all NPCs in the game are poor. To solve this issue, you just need to add more money and jewelry to the townspeople, so that an ordinary citizen would have 50 to 100 septims in his pockets, and the wealthy ones from 100 to 1000 septims. For example, if you steal from a Jarl, of course he'll have more money than a peasant, or maybe an expensive ring. Thus you will be motivated to steal. The second problem is the idea of the skill itself. Whether you can successfully steal something or not depends on chance. If you are lucky, you will steal something. If not, they will call the guards and you will go to jail. And the higher your skill level is, the higher the chance of success. I think that chance-based pickpocket is wrong. If the player did everything right, the player must be able to do his job successfully. Because as things stand now, people just quick save beforehand, and if caught, they just save scam. And in the end, the gamer is justified to do so, because if it wasn't the gamer's fault, why should the gamer accept the outcome and the punishment? I would like the pickpocketing minigame from Kingdom Come Deliverance in TES 6. Thus we can ensure the fairness of the mechanic, and the skill level would determine how much time the player has to steal, and what items could be stolen. Now, to conclude it all, the player will be comfortable to accept the consequences of the pickpocket, only if the game is fair to the gamer. This is why we need a minigame that will guarantee the fairness of the act. Number 32 on the list is reworking of the stealth concept. The very concept of stealth in Skyrim is primitive and bad. You have an indicator of visibility and noise, and if the enemy hears or sees you, you are noticed. It seems to sound logical, and it does, but the issue is the implementation. The basis of stealth in Skyrim is primarily visibility, and in order to not be seen you have to hide in shadows. That's the concept. But whether you will be seen in the dark depends on the level of your stealth skill. At low level of stealth, everyone can literally see you, and at high levels the enemy can walk 30 times a meter away from you without noticing you. Take a look, that's one of my favorite clips from Skyrim.
Anybody there? Must be my imagination.
Again, the issue is the same as with pickpocketing. Whether you will be seen or not doesn't depend on your action, not whether you did everything right, but on the numbers on the menu. Therefore, we need to completely change the concept of stealth, to do it like in the Deus Ex games. Now, there are many examples of good stealth games, but they often require parkour mechanics, which will probably not be in TES 6 with a probability of 99.9%. That's why I'm bringing up Deus Ex Stealth model. Stealth in Deus Ex is all about level design, and Deus Ex doesn't have a very complicated parkour mechanics. Yes, Bethesda level designers will have to work hard to do this, but what did they expect when they were hired? Did they think that they would always do nothing? In short, you need to create levels in the game, like different paths along which the player will move and switch to other paths to avoid being detected. And before you object, Bethesda tried to do something similar in Skyrim, in the Thieves Guild mission where you are being tasked to follow an Argonian. I can rate this attempt as 5 out of 10. It's really the only mission I can remember where they tried to do a good stealth level design. Again, it's not easy to do. You need to work out the paths well, place up the guards and so on. But if they want to really create a good stealth playstyle, it is necessary. By the way, another element that is necessary for good implementation of the stealth avoidance model is the player's knowledge of where exactly the enemies are. This was the case in Deus Ex, Dishonored and Assassin's Creed games when they were still stealth games. Yes, Skyrim has magic that shows the living, but I think it should be possible to hear where enemies are, like in the Last of Us games. Clear silhouettes and no need to level up magic. You can put this ability into the skill tree. This concept will assure that the game will indeed have 3 ways to play the game. Initially that was supposed to be the end, but I came up with 2 more numbers on the list. But before we go on, just a friendly reminder that this is number 8 in my video series, so there are already 7 more videos like this one on the channel. The links to the other videos are in the comment section. Also, you can check out my Cyberpunk After 5 Years video, or Forgotten Aspect of Fun video, and many more. So subscribe, ring the notification bell and leave a like to this video. Let's move on. Number 33 will be a short one, combining magic. Tell me with your gamer logic, what would happen if a wet target gets electrocuted? My gamer logic tells that the lightning spell will do more damage. So maybe we could have some water spells to combine it with other spells. Or for example, what if you would use a frost spell, then follow it up with a flame spell to melt the frost, so the target would get wet, and then follow it with a frost spell again. And as a result of this combo, it might for example have the ice form spell effect from Skyrim, where you would freeze the target. I think combining spells could be a really nice addition to the gameplay. And you know what? I think it should work with the enchanted weapons as well. And the last number on the list, number 34, staffs. As an idea, staffs are cool, but in practice almost no one uses them in TES games. I think that this is due to the fact that staffs run out of magicka very quickly. Strong staffs have literally a few dozen charges. You use them and then you have to look for a soul gem to recharge them. The gems are expensive. Then they need to be charged, and it is not a fact that the souls that you capture fit in the gem that you have. Don't you find it unfair that a sword can deal an infinite amount of damage, but a staff turns into a stick after 40 spells? I think it is wrong, and I think staffs should also be able to deal an unlimited amount of damage. The issue of staffs is quite complex, but there are a lot of opportunities for a cool and unique gameplay. Imagine a mage build that uses only staffs. Imagine you walk with 6 staffs on your back at once. I think it is cool. This is a completely new style of playing the game. Let's ask ourselves, what prevents us from playing like that in Skyrim? Well, I've already mentioned that they have very few charges, but they are also very weak as they are. To change that, in TES 6, we need real customization of staffs. Bethesda has already tried to introduce staff creation with the Dawnguard expansion. They made it possible to enchant staffs, but it was very limited. You could buy a blank staff and simply enchant it with standard predetermined spells. That is, Dragonborn DLC did not bring anything new into the game that was not in the base game. What I propose is to expand the amount of spells for enchantments, and the ability to customize the staffs themselves. Next, I will use a small illustration to help you understand what I mean, because it turned out to be a bit more difficult to explain in words than I initially thought. So the staff would consist of 3 elements. 1. Material of the staff. It is a base, for example, wood, which is a container for magic. 2. A generating ingredient that affects how much magic the staff generates in a certain time, for example, a tongue of a dragon. And 3. A focusing element that affects how much magical power the staff can release at once. The potential power of a staff spell would depend on the rarity of the materials. For example, a focusing element with a Varla stone could release a charge equivalent to 400 units of magic, and a goblin skull up to 100. That is, a staff with a Varla stone could cast stronger spells than a staff with a goblin skull. And now let's imagine that your staff indeed has a Varla stone on it, but the base of the staff itself is a simple tree, and the tree can hold only 700 units of magic. That means you can only use a spell with 400 units of magic only once. And now let's imagine that you have a staff with a Varla stone that can release up to 400 units of magic, but now you have an iron base that can hold 1200 units of magic. That is, you can cast a spell with 400 magic units 3 times, or even more times if you have an even cooler staff base. Let me remind you that a spell with 400 magic points is a master level spell. And what happens after you use all the staff's charge? You need to wait until the charge is restored, meaning you have a cooldown. To restore magicka, you need a generating element. For example, the Sword of a Fire Atronach would restore the magic in the staff 400 units per minute. This means that you could use a master level spells once a minute. But if you take a stronger ingredient, for example a Heart of a Daedra, that would generate 1200 magicka per minute. That way you could use a master level spells once every 20 seconds. Now consider the opposite situation when you have a weaker focusing element, but a strong generating one. Your magic is generated faster than it is used. That is, in this configuration you can use an infinite number of weaker spells and never run out of magic. In general, I think it would be a cool crafting mechanic, something like in Monster Hunter games, where you would explore and fight bosses to obtain cool items and craft cool unique stuffs. And hunting for crafting ingredients might be a good source of income for the players that don't want to craft stuffs. In general, we would get new mage builds, separate theme shops that will buy and sell ingredients and elements, quests to hunt for rare ingredients that could be taken from the shopkeepers, such as a dragon's tongue and stuff like that. It is just a ton of cool content. Whew, that's the end of my list. We dived quite deep. We discussed the mechanics of the game in details and how they should be implemented. Unlike most of the videos that I've seen on this topic, where there were only general phrases like "I want more quests, more factions" and so on. Like, who doesn't? In general, I think if I work in Bethesda, I would have paid a lot of money for such a list. But we have what we have. In general, I feel a little sad because the Ideal The Elder Scrolls 6 video was the first video on my channel. But even though the list is over, I will still cover Bethesda stuff, so stay on the channel. Now, thank you for being here, thank you for subscriptions and for likes, and check out my other videos. See you later.